she'd sit and emerge for a few hours, and they'd medicate her, and she'd go home, and it's just a constant cycle of repeat, nothing fixing anything, right? And she's lived with this for years and years and years, and she was just fed up. And her husband, I met him when I had the store on the main street in town, and we were talking about energy and stuff like that because I was studying it when he came in the store.
Yeah.
And he said, I wonder if that would help so and so, which was his wife. I don't want to spend any names on here.
No.
But I said, well, I'd be willing to try everything that I know about it energetically to make sure that these things are turned on, and maybe it'll help. I didn't know. Like, she was living with this for years.
Yeah.
Nothing was being helpful. So when I knew she was coming, I wanted to meditate on that. I wanted to know, I've never had this type of patient before. I wanted to know exactly what to do with her when she came. So I meditated on that probably for about an hour. And I got some really good answers that were mind-blowing because it was all stuff that I've never done before.
Yeah.
Like, it was completely different. So I come out of the meditation, I wrote every single bit of it down. And when she showed up, we went and did everything that the meditation told me to do, not actually this stuff in here. So we went and we did everything the meditation told me to do. And when that ended, I'll tell you what it was called. It was called a chakra blast.
Okay.
I'll explain it to you a little bit. So we were both to be in our bare feet, and we were supposed to be out on the grass facing the sun. And I was to stand about 6 inches behind her.
Yeah.
And make it so that my chakras lined up with her chakras.
Okay.
So I kind of had to scrouch down a little bit and line up my chakras with hers. So I was behind her, and we both had these crystals in her hand. Like, she had one facing in, a pointed crystal facing in, and one facing out. And I had the same thing. And then there was a whole bunch of words that we were supposed to say. And it was about, I know who I am, I know this, I know that.
Yeah.
This is true, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But we were doing hand motions with the crystals.
Yeah.
And I was thinking and feeling a certain way. And whether you're aware of it or not, like, how your chakras work is the energy that you express comes out the front, and the energy that you receive comes in the back. So because I
didn't know that.
Yeah, that's true. So because I was standing behind her, my chakras were blasting through hers.
Okay.
Right? While we were doing these motions in the sun in our bare feet and saying all these words. Like, you couldn't make this stuff up if you wanted to. This came in a 1 hour meditation before she arrived. So anyway, we did everything exactly like that. And by the time it was over, like, her husband and her father were sitting right there on the bench beside us.
And they watched the whole thing?
They watched the whole thing. And by the time it was over, I could see her beginning to collapse. So I reached out, I grabbed her, and I sat her down in between her husband and her father. And she sat there with her head down for, I don't know, probably 5 minutes. But as soon as that was over, she jumped up as vibrant as a teenager and couldn't believe how good she felt.
Wow.
And my mind was blown. The husband and the father's mind was blown. Her own mind was blown. So we all came in here, and I went through all of the routine that I normally go through. We found some things turned off. I turned them back on. And I balanced her nervous system, sent her on her way. I've never seen her again. And, they put a thing on one of my LinkedIn pages, but not specifically about that healing, but just about me. And, they had reasons for not doing that. And I think it had something to do with lifetime funding. But she was corrected, So I mean, if you're getting paid and you're ill, you won't get paid if you're healthy. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So, and that's the only thing that makes sense with that part of it. But it was a successful thing for a very severe case of
Yeah.
fibromyalgia. Now, when I was still in construction about 9 years ago, one of our truck drivers, he knew that I was getting into this stuff because it was all I ever talked about. Because I was the shop foreman, shop mechanic, all those things. So I seen all those guys every single day. And he came to me one day after a doctor's appointment, and he said, "You know, this crazy stuff you talk about." He said, "Do you believe that it works?" So I said, "I believe that the theory of it makes sense to work." And this was like I was just basically a few years into it, and I've never had a cancer patient before. But he had a growth inside of his bladder, probably about the size of a golf ball and a half. It was pretty big right in his bladder. So that's where your sacral chakra is, right?
Yeah.
So he came and I checked him over, and you know, everything was relatively okay, except his sacral chakra was turned off front and back. Turned right off. So I turned it on. I balanced his nervous system. I said, "Come and see me again in 2 to 3 days, no longer." He came back 2 days later. Sacral chakra is turned off. I turn it back on, balance his nervous system. I said, "Come back and see me in 2 to 3 days." He comes back in, I think, 3 days the second time, and is turned off again. So this happened 2 more times. So that's 4 times. And after the 4th time, I said to him, I said, "Listen, when you come back, bring your wife with you." He said, "What the hell for?" And I said, "Because you live with her, you spend all your time with her." And I said, "Something's going on here, and I want to see her." So anyway, I turn it all on. He leaves, comes back for the 5th time with his wife, and I brought her in here, and I showed her these 2 posters that describe the definitions of what everything means here. So the sacral chakra front and back have 2 similar meanings, but also quite different. So I said to her, I said, "Read both of those." And I said, "Tell me if you guys have any of these things going on in your life." So she came in, she read them both, and she said, "Yes, we do, every single one of them." I said, "Okay." So I said, "Every time he comes here and I turn this back on relating to this subject matter, he goes home and he comes back and they're turned off." I said, "Can we do anything about this?" And she said, "Absolutely." So this subject matter, I'll tell you what they are. For the front, for the back of the body, on the sacral chakra on the back, it is about receiving money, pleasure, and intimacy. Okay, but
Okay, Brent, I have a question. Now, the
what?
back part of the sacral,
That
right?
that's the
That's your
receiving.
lower back, right?
That's your lower back, just probably about 3 inches above your tailbone.
Okay. So that's receiving money.
Receiving money, pleasure, and intimacy. Like
Okay.
thinking that you have enough value and worth to be able to receive those things. Like you're worth that, right?
Yeah.
So that's on the back. Then on the front is sexuality, creativity, intimate relationships, and self-worth. Okay? So with whatever it is that they've been arguing about, it included every single one of those things. And they made up about it. I turned his sacral chakras back on, balanced his nervous system. He came back and saw me 4 more times after that, not once did I have to turn it back on again. 3 weeks after that, he went to go to the hospital because they wanted to have one more look before they opened him up, because they're going to put a scope in there. And they came back and they said, we must have misdiagnosed you. There doesn't seem to be anything there.
So what they did was they went home and they worked on those questions.
No, they just dropped the subject altogether. It was just
Okay.
something that they've been fighting about for years. You know, he was a truck driver, probably wasn't making enough money. She was in retirement, so that like money was an issue, right? Pleasure and intimacy. Well, they sounded like Archie and Edith. They argued the whole time. I've never seen them intimate, but then sexuality, creativity, intimate relationships, and then self-worth. I mean, if you're fighting all the time, you don't feel like you got a lot of self-worth. So it all applied. He was taking it to heart. His body literally turned that thing off, and until it was dealt with, right? Like there's something absolutely magical happening.
Yeah.
Where the subject matter matches the problem in the body exactly through definition, right? So that was really good. And if I never asked his wife to come, we would have never learned the correction.
Yeah.
But I had a feeling, because I kept looking at these definitions and I'm like, okay, so it's not just him, right? Somebody else was involved here. And, I knew it was just him and his wife. They live alone. All the kids are all grown up and moved out. So, yeah, that's exactly what happened there.
Wow.
Yeah. And, when you do something like that and you change somebody's life, and, you realize that all of the typical ways that we would go about, if he never came to see me, he probably would have had chemo, could have had a surgery of some kind, messed himself up for what reason, right? Because him and his wife couldn't decide to be happy about certain subject matters.